There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Well, hello, BookTube. I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with the September TBR. I don't usually do TBRs, but, sometimes the spirit moves me and I just feel like doing a TBR. I often do TBRs for readathons or things like that, but just a monthly TBR, it's not my usual practice. I've got a manageable number of buddy reads, so I'll tell you about those first, and then other stuff that I'm hoping to read. These will be kind of in chronological order for the buddy reads, but maybe not by the end. I will be buddy reading this novella from the UK, One Fine Day by Molly Panter Downs, and this will be a buddy read with Cousin of Always Doing. We have been planning this since we first met and did those book videos. When was that? A few months back. And this is when it fits into both of our schedules. So we will be doing a book discussion, kind of joint review type video. More discussion than review. We'll see what it turns out to be. Early in the month, so I will read this right out of the gate. Molly Panter Downs was born in 1906 and died in 1977. And this was maybe her most well-known novel, One Fine Day, 1947. Novella, 177 pages, and I hope that we like it. I will be doing my very first buddy read with a friend from Litsy, and I'm really excited about it because we're going to get to know each other better. We've always liked each other, but we haven't met or done a buddy read or had a chance to get to know each other. And her name is Maggie, and her ID, her name on Litsy and on Goodreads is Marchpane. I will spell that here. And we are buddy reading Aaron Daddy Roy's first novel, The God of Small Things, which neither of us have read. I read the second one, something Utmost Happiness, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, I think. There's the gift. But we're going to be reading her debut, which I hear is just wonderful. It won the Booker. Her second novel, I was going to say problematic. Not problematic, but, it didn't quite work, but it was still a masterpiece. I loved it with all my heart, even though it didn't quite all hang together. And her first one is supposed to be even better, so I am so excited. I haven't seen Leo around recently, but he will be pleased to know that I will finally be getting to Ohio by Stephen Markley in September. And this will be a buddy read with Ollie of Ollie Bliss. Ollie and I usually buddy read queer stuff, and this is kind of the exact opposite, but I hear it's wonderful. I don't hear that consistently, but I hear many, many, many people, not only Leo, who love it, so we're going to give it a try. This will be a buddy read with Britta Bowler and Ange will be on the pages. The Gypsy Moth Summer by Julia Fierro. Britta and I had been planning to buddy read it at some point, and then when Ange was here in Tokyo, she saw this and fell in love with the book cover. So with the three of us, we'll be buddy reading it in September. And it is about a prominent white family, I don't know which state in America. It's an Avalon Island off the East Coast. The daughter has an African-American husband, and it causes a lot of problems in the family. And that is the premise, set in the summer of 1992. Fierro, this is not her first novel. She lives in Brooklyn and Los Angeles. I hope to be able to report back favorably. And this one is a little bit more tentative, but I do think that Ange and I will both be able to get to it, and that was the next Barbara Pym novel. I've been reading them chronologically for, is it 2 years now? A year and a half at least, maybe 2 years. And I've only got 2 or 3 left. And the next one is An Unsuitable Attachment, which she worked on much earlier in life, but she finished it just before she died, and it was published posthumously. An Unsuitable Attachment. So Ange and I will probably be buddy reading that later in September. And you will remember that Brian of Bookish and I buddy read the first novella in this collection of 2 novellas by William Trevor, Two Lives. We buddy read Reading Turgenev, and we both loved it. And in September, we're going to buddy read the second, My House in Umbria. The last buddy read that I have to tell you about is and I have already done this in another TBR a few months ago, but we just didn't get to it, and that is the short story collection Bobcat and Other Stories by Rebecca Lee. This was a gift from a Litsy friend, Sara, and Curtis of Curtis Books and Books has praised it to high heaven. So this will be a buddy read with everybody's best commenter on BookTube. Where would BookTube be without Joe Smith? Joe and I will be finally getting to this in September. So those are my buddy reads, and that's not a lot. I have stuff that will be carried over from Women in Translation Month. I have at least one, maybe two books that will be carried over from much earlier, from before that. But I do think there's room to fit in some other shorter novels and whatnot. This is a short novel from Hungary, Embers by Sandor Marai, that I have had on my shelf for a few years, and it's time to get to it. Oh. The back says it's a magnificent rediscovered masterpiece. I don't think I knew that before. So when was it? Marai was born in 1900 and died in San Diego in 1989. He was known as the leading literary novelist in Hungary in the 1930s. That's fascinating. But the rediscovered part, I don't know anything about. And I think I've done maybe a page 112 tag. For some reason I know that it's about an old Hungarian general who meets his closest friend from decades before. 50, 60 years before, there had been a love triangle between them. So I don't know if it'll end up being for me, but I've heard good things about it, and it has a lovely, let me get my fingers off the poor woman's neck there. It has a lovely cover. One of my top reads of maybe, was it 2 years ago, was Jeeves Sahota's The Year of the Runaways. It was nominated, shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2015. I read it maybe 2016. I'm not sure when I read it, a few years ago, and I absolutely loved it. It just ripped my heart out. It's one of the best novels about the immigrant experience that I have ever read, and it is also one of my favorite Indian-themed novels of all time. I cannot recommend it highly enough, and it's one that Steve Donahue and I completely agree on. This is just an incredible novel, and yes, it was nominated for the Booker, but it still needs much more attention, people! Really! But while I'm impatiently waiting for Sahota's third novel, I decided a few months ago to acquire his debut, Ours Are the Streets, and I'm planning to read it in September. And this one is 2011. The protagonist leaves England for the first time in his life to bury his father back in Lahore. So his father was the immigrant, right? And that journey takes him deep into the mountains of Kashmir and Afghanistan. And he returns a changed man. And I know that the terrorism is a big part of this story. So it's going to be a tough read, but I trust Sanjeev Sahota to tell it deep. And once I realized earlier this year that several months had gone by and I hadn't read a Welsh novel, I have been trying to read one a month. So for September, it's going to be a very recent novel from Wales. Richard Williams' Molston Thomas and the Big Rave. So it's about a Welsh farmer, Pembrokeshire. The farmer, Molston, he's on the verge of bankruptcy, and he kind of connects with some young raver and starts hosting raves on his farm to supplement his income. Sounds really fun. I found out about this on Eric Carl Anderson's channel, and I am planning, all things being equal, to get to it in September. And the last one is one that I found when I was well into Women in Translation Month, and I was feeling like my TBR was too white, too Eurocentric, and I was snooping around on... we'll go with that. Snooping around on Scribd, and oh no, I think the writer's name came to my attention, if I'm correct, I may be misremembering this, on Eric Carl Anderson's channel, because there's a newly translated or newly reissued novel. The writer is a female Chinese novelist, Anyi Wang, and I'm going to mention the other novel that's more recently translated or reissued in a moment, but the one that I found on Scribd is Song of Everlasting Sorrow from 2004. I don't know if that's the translation or what, but it's 700 pages. and I'm going to start it. Translated by, Michael Berry and Susan Chan Egan. Published by Columbia University Press, and I believe it's 2004. And yeah, it's 700 pages. So if I like it, I think I've previewed the first couple pages. That went good, but you know how that can go. If I like it, it's going to be a several month read, but I'm going to start it in September and see how it goes. Because I didn't read nearly enough Asian literature by women in translation, so I'm going to make up for that. Let's find out a little bit more about the writer. So, Wang Anyi, or Anyi Wang, born in 1954. She's the daughter of the renowned writer Ru Zhizhuang. She's considered a leading figure in contemporary Chinese literature. So, when I read writers who live in China rather than in exile, I'm always wanting to find out, there isn't a lot, there isn't complete independence to express whatever you want. I have read novelists from China and enjoyed them, and I think that their censors are so stupid that they do get away with a lot of stuff. Anyway, she's 65 years old, and The Song of Everlasting Sorrow is her most notable work, published originally in 1995. She was sent down sent down means imprisoned or sent away during the Cultural Revolution, so she has stories to tell. Oh my God. Now, what's the one that I believe Eric Carl Anderson? It's shorter, but it's not on Scribd, so I decided why not tackle this tome and read it bit by bit over a few months. Yeah, the one that I heard about, why is it? Oh, it's only got a 3-star rating on Goodreads, but it's been newly published, maybe newly translated, August of this year. Hu Ping, or Fu Ping, I think it's probably pronounced Hu Ping, and it is much shorter, 300 pages. My friend Maggie, aka Marchpane, she gave it 3 stars. So that's the one that's newly published, but I'm going to tackle the big one, The Song of Everlasting Sorrow, and see how it goes. So what do you think? That sounds like a pretty interesting TBR. I'm stoked. Thanks for watching.